And baby number 2, start the timer.
Started. Just getting a little stretch in this podcast series.
Welcome back to the podcast series that Heather is referencing, the 777 series.
No, I'm referencing the 777.
The 777
The 777 series because it's easier.
Take your pick, whichever you'd rather call it. These are our 7 most memorable experiences over our 7 years of being location independent, and they're coming out 7 days in a row to celebrate our Paradise Pack launch. Today, we are like almost over the hump now. We're on number 4, so we're cresting towards number 1, and today we are talking about our first really big, I guess you would call our first really big location independent trip that we had. We're going to talk about another trip that was like I would say the first location independent trip. This I'd call the
like
first
the longest,
big
the long trip. So at this point in time, we had been homeless, living with family members.
Homeless sounds a little worse than our situation.
Yeah, no, we were not homeless. We were at this
nomadic.
point nomadic. We were living mostly with Trav's parents, but then we said to them we're probably going to be away on a 2 to 3 month trip. And at that point, we had been with them about a year, and we decided to pack up all of our stuff there and kind of get it out of their way. And we're like, we don't know what we're going to do for the next couple months or years, so we're just going to go, and we're going to go to Europe. You booked me tickets to Paris because I had never been, and I always wanted to go.
Birthday?
We went in May. I don't remember what it was for.
Valentine's Day, I booked.
Really?
Yeah,
That's giving
probably.
yourself a lot of credit.
Okay.
I don't remember why we booked, probably because there was a mistake there. And you wanted to surprise me with a trip to Paris because Trav had been before, but I had never been. And I know it's cliche, but of course everybody wants to see Paris. I mean, it's beautiful.
Well, like cliche or whatever, stereotypical, because it's awesome. And I had been, and had been at that point your number one place that you wanted to go, and it had been your number one place for a while. And so I thought, what better way to kick off this trip? I mean, to me, this was going to be the beginning of a true nomadic life. It didn't end up being that exactly because we came back after this. Like, this was still, I think, our longest trip to date is 2 months away from our home area, other than the fact of the time that we lived in Japan for 2 years. But this was like, in my mind, we're kicking this off. We're going to become location independent. We really didn't have any plans. We had 10
other
days
than
in
Paris, that was it. And we thought, I also really wanted to go to Croatia for the first time. And we thought, okay, well, if we're going to be somewhere in Europe for a couple of weeks, why not go to a new country? And at that time, we were like, let's do Croatia for an extended period of time. But nothing was planned other than the first 10 days in Paris.
And so, to me, what I loved about this was it was almost, now we were working, so it wasn't quite like this, but it was almost like a gap year. And I was always jealous
of 2 months.
Yeah, I was always jealous of Europeans and Australians because it's so much more common. Not that Americans can't do it, but they don't tend to do it. But it's so much more common for Europeans and Australians to take a gap year, and that's to either take off between high school and college or college and a job and just go traveling. And I had been around a lot of Europeans when I lived in Switzerland who were doing this or had done this. And I always thought, okay, well, Europe is a great place to do this because it's so easy to get around. And I was looking at this almost then as like, this is going to be our
mini gap year.
Our mini gap year, because we're going to get to go around. We're going to go. We don't have any plans. That was that's kind of typical of a gap year, right? You get over there and you meet people
it out.
and you just figure it out. And you get cheap tickets, or someone tells you to go here because there's a cool event going on, and you go over. So that was my idea of this trip, and it did turn into that a bit. It certainly wasn't exactly like I thought it would be, but we ended up spending 2 months in Europe. First 10 days we did in Paris, and that was really neat. We had a pretty cool Airbnb there.
Actually, it was a Go With O apartment. It wasn't Airbnb.
Me. That's right.
We were working with Go With O, which, I mean, Airbnb is huge now, and it was pretty big then, but Go With O is just in Europe. It's the same thing as Airbnb.
Except they have a little more oversight with the apartments. Like, their whole thing is that they're all vetted very heavily.
Which now Airbnb does have that as part of its thing for the Airbnb Plus listings. But anyway, that's a whole other thing.
We have an Airbnb Plus listing.
So we were staying in a Go With O apartment. And at that time, we were kind of working a little bit more with companies. So that was a sponsored stay for 10 days in this cool apartment in Montmartre. How do you say that area?
I don't know. I never took French.
Montmartre.
Montmartre.
Anyway.
Right by Sacré-Cœur. It's Montmartre, or
And,
that's how the English.
Yeah, we are so bad at languages. It's terrible. But anyway, we stayed there in that area for 10 days. And that was really fun because even though it was 10 days, it really felt like we knew the little neighborhood that we were staying in. And we went to the same
I even got my wallet stolen in that
yes,
neighborhood. That's how you become a local. You get your wallet stolen. Or that's how you are a tourist.
Yeah. So I just think, 10 days in one spot is really nice because you can settle in and we could get some work done and then we could also go out and sightsee, and it was a really nice mix of things. And at that time we were doing a lot of video for Extra Pack of Peanuts. So we were like running around Paris, shooting videos, and it was just fun. And even though that was actually right before we launched the first Paradise Pack, which was our number 6 most memorable experience. So this time that we're talking about now was literally 2 months before that first Paradise Pack. So even though we hadn't launched that yet, I think our business was a little bit more on the upswing, and we were just feeling really good about our lives and our, LI experience. And then of course we launched the Paradise Pack, and that solidified, we kind of have stuff going on that's working.
Gave us breathing room as is the best way, as we keep using that term. And I think for us, what was kind of cool about this trip I don't remember doing that much work. Like it did happen, but what I mean by that is when we talked about the trip to Myanmar, which was our number 7, and if you guys listen to that, you know that I was really stressed out about work and how much had to get done. I don't really remember feeling stressed on this trip. I remember traveling a lot and really seeing a lot of things. But I knew I must have been doing a lot of work because we were getting ready for the Paradise Pack. So that's kind of cool to remember it that way. Saying like, I don't specifically remember any time where I was worried about getting work done and I couldn't.
Yeah.
But I just remember the cool stuff that we did. And to give everyone a little bit of an overview, I mean, we should probably talk about the itinerary.
Yeah. Well, and also I just want to say about the Mandalay stress part is that even though that was later than this trip, actually, it was the following year, I believe. I think it was more the Myanmar part of it that was stressing you out, maybe. Or maybe you had just launched the Paradise Pack and not the Paradise Pack, Location Indie.
That could be it. I just know that this trip felt great.
Yeah.
And that's why it's higher on this
felt
list
great.
than the Myanmar
That trip felt great. So we started in Paris for, I think it was 10 days, and then we went and stayed at the Park Hyatt Vendôme for 2 nights, which, gotta say, we used our points because it's $1,000 a night to stay there.
Not impressed.
Whoa.
Not if you have free Hyatt nights and you want to go to the most expensive Hyatt and you think it's going to be great, the Park Hyatt Vendôme in Paris, it's not that great. And they actually crushed our box of tarts. We had boxes of desserts and they crushed them. They did give us free macarons, macarons. Then anyway,
and champagne.
We were in Paris, and then we got out of Paris, and I have always been fascinated, as longtime listeners of this show may know, with Eastern Europe. We had never been to Eastern Europe, and Heather wanted to go to Croatia.
Trav loves Eastern Europe.
Yeah, Heather wanted to go to Croatia, so we thought, okay, we can do this. Like, let's make our way over. And so we went over to Austria, and we spent 4 days, I believe, in Austria, and it was cool. We were only in Vienna, and we liked it.
Yeah, but it was quick.
It was quick, but I wanted to get a little grittier, and that's when we went to Bratislava in Slovakia, and the moment we took the bus between Austria and Bratislava, 2 of the closest
45 minutes
country capitals in the world. Okay, it was an hour, 45 minutes to an hour bus ride. But the change between those 2 places is unreal. Like Austria or Vienna, super clean, beautiful,
well manicured,
yeah.
Everywhere you look is just beautiful architecture that's been maintained, and there's not trash or really much graffiti that you could, at least where we were in the center of.
When you're in Vienna, you are in Western Europe.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Then you get to Bratislava and you get off the bus station, and the bus station's like, where the heck am I? And it's just dirty, and it's so different. There's graffiti everywhere. There's definitely, I think, just more people wandering around that look a little disreputable. I don't necessarily think they were homeless, but it was just a totally different scene. But
exactly what I wanted. Exactly. There was two elevators to go up and down that didn't work at all, and like
escalators.
There were escalators. I mean, and there's like dust balls on them, like the size of my head.
Yeah.
So they haven't worked since for 20 years.
No,
Who knows?
but Bratislava is still a very beautiful city, and we stayed right in the old part of Bratislava, which is beautiful and very clean and lots of nice buildings. And
so I want to touch on, it was great for me. The most location independent moment of this trip for me happened in Bratislava. There was a pool at the place that we stayed at, and I was swimming laps. And every time I turned my head to breathe when I was swimming freestyle, I looked out, and this pool had an awesome window, and you looked up at the castle, the Bratislava castle that sat up on the hill. And so every time I took a breath, I'm looking up at that castle. And I just remember swimming laps there in the morning and saying, oh my gosh,
it was beautiful.
This is what I want out of location independence. Like, I know I have to work, but here I am looking at this amazing, amazing scenery, something I've never seen, didn't even know existed in this town that I had never been to. And I just felt like this is it. This is location independence for me.
We were staying at a Radisson hotel group, and it was a Park Inn, I think, and we had hotel points. That was another thing too. We started using hotel points more instead of traveling in hostels, which are fine, but sometimes hostels really suck. And we like to have private rooms as a married couple, and so we were staying in this really nice inn. That's why we had the Park Inn. We had this beautiful view of the castle, and it was right downtown. And the Radisson Blu, which is the higher level of the same hotel chain, which we could have stayed at too, but it was like more bang for your buck at the Park Inn. But that was beautiful. It was like a block away, and all these famous writers and artists had come and stayed there. So it was such a beautiful city, and it was our first taste of like Eastern Europe. And it was awesome.
Yeah, and we also didn't have any plans. So then we went down to Croatia. We went over and we stayed there for the goal was... We got
an apartment.
The goal was to spend 3 weeks in Croatia in Split. And we thought, okay, we're location independent. We always want to travel slower, so let's do that.
Get work done. You're launching the Paradise
right.
Pack soon.
So we got an apartment for 3 weeks. We actually only spent 1 week there by ourselves. Then we spent 1 week traveling down to Montenegro, over to Sarajevo, and back. And then the third week, we had friends from the UK come and visit us because we put out there, hey, we've got this 2-bedroom apartment. Does anyone want to come? And they came. So this 3 week, like, let's bunk in and let's just hang out in one city, slow travel.
Into a crazy adventure because, of course, Trav, knowing that he's so close to all these other really amazing places, wanted to go. And of course, I wanted to go too. But Trav is definitely the driving force of like seeing everything you can possibly see within a certain mile radius of the area that we are. And he still has a tendency to do that, but we've pared it down a little bit just to make life easier on ourselves because fast traveling is challenging. And now we have a kid and another baby on the way. We definitely...
I am...
You have to take it a
little.
little
I am slow travel in my head, fast travel in my heart.
It's
and
true,
so I have to fight those battles.
Yeah.
But we spent time in Croatia, Bosnia, back to Croatia. Then we went up to Prague, and then over to Berlin
which was a magical like 5 days in Berlin.
I know. It only... I don't even
maybe
think
not. Maybe it was 3 or 4, 3 nights, 4 days.
But definitely an awesome city.
Fell in love with Berlin. We had the most perfect weather. We were there with our friends Courtney and Kaylin. We met them there. They came over to join us for like 2 weeks of travel around Europe, and that was just amazing because we love traveling with them, and we got to spend this amazing time in Berlin with the best weather. And we're biking around and eating outside, and it's like 80 degrees and sunny.
It felt like everything we wanted when it came to location independence. And then I will say that we also had a location independent experience or a travel experience that everyone's bound to have at some point. We were getting ready to leave Berlin that morning, and our friends Courtney and Kim were going to meet other friends in Paris, and we were supposed to go to Amsterdam. And I get a email saying, hey, the bus that you booked is no longer going to Amsterdam. It doesn't exist, or like
they
it
canceled
Oh,
that.
it broke down.
Yeah.
It broke down. And I'm like, well, there has to be another bus. Like, no, this bus company only has like 3 buses.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, we couldn't really get to Amsterdam without spending a lot more money. And we were like, oh man, what are we going to do? We hadn't even booked accommodations there.
So we're like, well, our friends are going to Paris and they're going today. Are there flights to Paris? And there were. And so we went and flew back to Paris and spent another 4 or 5 days in Paris. Then we went to see friends in London, the same friends who had come and seen us in Croatia early in that trip.
Yep.
So it seemed like it just was that enough spontaneity at that point and enough fast travel that would I want to do this exact timer? Would I want to do this exact trip again? It's pretty quick, but at that moment, it's super memorable because we had never done a lengthy, open-ended, not sure where we're going, nothing is planned, but we're location independent, so let's do it. And I just kind of thought like we're cheating the system because people take gap years to do this.
Right.
We don't have to take a gap year. We
could do
older.
it anytime.
We're doing it when we were.
We've done it multiple times since then, where we've taken 2-month or 1-month trips just to a place that we want to go. I mean, we've not on our top 7 most memorable trips.
Actually, no,
but
it is. Our very next one, if you're going to listen tomorrow, our number 3 is another lengthy, about 2-month trip that we're going to get into. And this was different than the one we just talked about because it was a little more planned, but it was memorable for a certain reason because we played a fun little game before we left that determined where we were going to go. So we'll let you know. We'll let you guys know that if you listen to tomorrow's episode. If you're listening live, and of course, if it's already out, just go start getting it right now. But this trip, this first 2-month quick hitting, no plans, let's go European adventure is our number 4 most memorable location independent experience because not many people get to do this, especially if you're from the U.S. If you're not taking time off work, unless you have a job that allows you to be location independent, and we did. And that's how we were able to pull that off. So make sure you tune in. We're counting down. We've got 3, 2, 1 left, and I guarantee these are some awesome, memorable experiences and some pretty funny stories to boot. We'll chat with you guys soon.